Again from my office at my home. Today is March 26th, 2019. It's around 4:40 p.m. Los Angeles time or Pacific time for those of you on the other coast. Um, the news of the day today is a big news day. Donald Trump has apparently gotten the Department of Justice head honcho William Barr, who's the Attorney General, to make write out some statements that says no collusion was found involving Trump, or there wasn't enough evidence that he had done anything to meddle in the 2016 elections. And now it's a funny story that appeared in one of the papers, Huffington Post, particularly, that Donald Trump's campaign celebrates Mueller report with new witch hunt merch or merchandise, if you will. All I can say about this is, once again, this is another scheme of the GOP and the Republican National Convention to make money off of those of you who choose to believe or mesmerized by Donald Trump, because you think if you get the opportunity to touch him or embrace him in some way, that he's going to magically make you wealthier than you could ever imagine being. So you can get your T-shirts and mugs and decals on this site. $30 for mugs and T-shirts. I wouldn't give the man a dollar bill for one. Everybody right now is making such a big deal out of Donald Trump was the victim of a witch hunt. There have been other presidents who've been victims of witch hunts and who were looked at for impeachment and walked away unscathed, but they didn't turn around and make it into something where they can make more money. The Trump brand name is a real seller for the Trump family. They are showing and continue to show, have shown and are continuing to show that the only thing that really matters to the GOP and the Trump family is making even more money off of the Republicans or the GOP or the people who idolize and follow Trump and would follow him, into a fiery pit if that's what it took for them to be with their leader. I don't believe that Donald Trump didn't collude with the Russians. I don't believe that the report, Mueller's report, is that, let's say, concise in the sense of, he didn't do anything, blah, blah, blah. I think it's more about, well, he could have, but I'm not quite sure, couldn't get all the evidence. This is a report that took a long time in the making. Multiple people got indicted and were arrested and are serving jail time. And let me point out, all of those people were people that Donald Trump spoke up for and talked about how wonderful, magnificent people they were. And then at some point in the future, he turns on them and starts talking trash about them and how dishonest they are and how corrupt. And ironically enough, his base turns around and says, oh, yeah, they are, but failed to see the very see through their rose-colored glasses that this man who is claiming that these people are evil and are liars and can't be trusted was the very man who brought these people into play, hired these people. And I don't know about you all, but if you're going to hire some sleazeball attorney because you're going after someone, then you fully intend on getting everything that you want. You're not going to hire some puff attorney to go after billions of dollars for you or to protect you from a murder case or that kind of thing. And Trump may have many of you fooled, and many of you are fooled by his shenanigans. Um, he has used many facets of industry, not just construction and real estate mogul that he claims to be, but really has focused a lot on getting people to really buy into just how wealthy the Trumps are and how much, uh, they have their brand. And, Ivanka has so many clothing line products and such out there. Trump has his name on buildings, some of the buildings that aren't even his. Um, you know, you get to the point where I don't care what anyone else thinks. I mean, the truth of the matter is everything we hear is Trump, 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 and quite frankly, I'm actually pretty sick of it. And a lot of it is I know the undoing of many social programs, reaching out to help those in need, taking the attitude that now the time is about the survival of the fittest, cutting off healthcare costs for people who just can't afford the kinds of money for healthcare coverage, who are in situations where their children are ill or dying or have other healthcare needs that can't be met without some kind of universal healthcare system. I never thought that I would ever see so much hatred in this country for groups of people against other groups of people, and that people would love the whole idea of being divided against others. Um, and so a lot of what I see, and I saw some today, where people said, if anybody posts anything negative about politics or, writes anything about it, I'm going to delete them from my Facebook. Well, fine, do that. Um, to me, it's just a petty way of saying I have a right, and I'm in control, and I get to act like Donald Trump here because I'm not letting anyone say anything on my Facebook page that I don't agree with. So I'm going to just cut them off, delete them, or whatever. And these people were never your friends. They were never your family. Even if you're related, they're not your family. They're all about making the mighty buck, making things all about them, and following a leader who is going to lead the United States and has led the United States into the very far reaches of the fiery pit of debt, with the deficit just increasing at large amounts day by day, and all of the products that are sold either going to the Republican National Convention or committee, or going to Donald J. Trump and his many minions. There's no programs out there to help the poor, to help the middle class that are struggling to make ends meet. It's the easiest thing in the world for people who are getting back a lot of tax money, or don't have to pay any taxes, like many of the companies who didn't have to pay taxes on billions of dollars. And they have just that much more money. But yet we keep hearing about layoffs and about companies closing their doors and employees being shuffled off to the sidelines to look for employment. I myself have been unemployed for almost 5 years, and being in my mid 50s, I've interviewed for a few jobs, maybe a handful, but I've applied to thousands of different jobs and never heard anything, or have always gotten a rejection letter, the standard HR letter. And in some cases, there were some questionable tactics done during the interview process, and basically it was blown off as something that, um, you know, hey, it may have been not appropriate or not right, but eh, you know, really don't think it was that big of a deal. And this is the kind of things that are going on out there. And age discrimination does exist, because younger people are being hired into jobs before older people. I don't know about how many. I don't have the statistics on that yet, but I would be glad to research that. Um, and the other thing is that these attacks that keep going on about people who want to go after Hillary Clinton for her emails and that kind of thing, it's a vicious, vicious, underhanded attack to go after her because she had the nerve to run for president and speak up about what Donald Trump was all about, which is himself. And even though there may not be enough evidence to support Russian collusion. Maybe people wouldn't give up enough information to really, pinpoint him to the act. Um, he walks away unscathed while he leaves people in his path of destruction who are going to jail, who are paying the costs for the things that he asked them to do. And he needs to take responsibility for those things, and he never will. He never has. And so he wants to scapegoat and go back after Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton, the only reason why Donald Trump would want to go after her is because she won the popular vote and he can't stand it. And the only way that he can make himself feel better, his small, egotistical, um, soft skinned personality, uh, deems that he needs to go after Hillary Clinton and make an example out of her or smash her into the ground, because that's the most that he's able to do as president of the United States. I mean, his wall, and for those of you who are supporters of that wall, his wall isn't going to stop crap. His wall is just something to spend money on to proclaim that he did something. And it is something that, unless you put the wall around the entire United States border, you are not going to stop the things that are going to happen from happening. And what you are setting yourselves up for are a lot of other countries that had walls in the past, like the USSR, which is the old Russia, the wall in China, and North and South Korea. Think of all these different types of things. And these walls didn't stop anything. It only allowed there to be some control of flow. But when there were bombings in some of the places that had walls, people can bomb over the walls, and in many cases can just bomb through the walls. A lot of blame is getting shifted to the drug cartels in Mexico, and that the money is traveling in a certain direction, and that may be true. There may be lots of money that are bringing drugs into this country, but that's not the worst of our problems. Sex trade trafficking is a really big deal. And a lot of people are convinced that it's under control or not going on in the United States. And I believe we are really living in a land where Alice just simply is not home and we need to leave that particular land. Um, I will always advocate for those who are less fortunate. I will always advocate for their well being. Um, I am somebody who feels that what Ellen DeGeneres is doing for people is great. And she talks about being kind to people, and she always is. And Oprah Winfrey talks about that as well. And the truth of the matter is, you could be kind to people. And you can do that just by doing a random act of kindness every day, all of us, to help someone out. But people are choosing to be haters and be nasty and to call others names, laugh about black men being shot down for no reason every day, and not finding any kind of reason to step up on a platform and fight for these people who are victims of this kind of abuse being placated on them by some police officers. And I want to really make the statement known that not all police officers do this kind of thing. So I don't want to come across as generalizing that all police officers are, set out to murder or to do things to harm others. Just like I don't want to generalize that all black men are innocent of the crimes that they're charged with, or that they are stopped by the police for those crimes. And that goes for any other culture as well. So we have to be really careful that we understand the whole story before we make assumptions. And so one of the things today that really is amazing to me is that there is um, a lot of ambiguity, a lot of capriciousness, arbitrariness that's being applied to different people by others, and it really is amazing to me that how mean and bitter people can be and not pick up a fight until it starts to affect the community that they belong to. If I'm a part of the gay LGBTQ plus community, I don't pick up on protecting anyone or standing up for the rights. And this is just an example. It's not to say that I'm not doing it, but for an example, I'm not picking up and helping other people out because, it really isn't affecting me, because it's not about gay rights and things like that. And other countries where people are being killed, and it's going on in this country, people are being killed simply based upon who they love, what's the color of their skin, what religion do they practice, and who they vote for even. And it's a sad day when we start to see each other as being of some kind of non-value, or as some people have put it, we see people as not human. I remember reading an article from a minister who was telling his congregation that homosexuals were not human, which is just a wonderful way of spreading hatred and making it much easier for other people to take the lives of people who happen to be gay, because they can see them as subhuman in some way. It's why the white supremacists have so much power in our country, because they have painted a picture that blacks are subhuman to whites, because they believe that that God is white and that Jesus was white. And therefore, the white man is the top of the chain. And I think they're in for a rude awakening when all is revealed to us, if you believe in the Christian religion. And if you don't, then that's fine because it's not really a concern to you. Um, and so, getting back to the whole witch hunt thing and the Mueller report, the Mueller report is being filtered through the very people that the report is supposed to reflect upon. And Donald Trump is in the position where he controls the Department of Justice and he controls the flow of information that comes out of the Department of Justice, which is why he picks the types of people to lead the Department of Justice that he does. And right now, people are calling for, Adam Schiff to take a step back or recuse himself from the Intelligence Committee because he demanded that Trump be looked at for collusion and those kinds of things. I don't think that warrants or justifies asking him to step down. After all, we didn't ask Donald Trump to step down for the many lies that he's told and continues to tell on a daily basis. And, whether he's been exonerated from collusion or not, until I see the report, I'm not going to read or believe anything that he posts or anything that his Department of Justice posts because they work for him and they work at his leisure and they can be fired at any given time. So, of course, they're going to give you the summarization of the Mueller report that you want. And it just stands to reason that many of you wouldn't, if it had come out that Donald Trump had been involved in Russian collusion, you would have followed him into the federal prison to bathe him and take care of him and to be right there with him, regardless, because you are that loyal. And in many ways, you probably can't even describe why you're that loyal to Donald Trump, other than that you have some deep-seated need to be loyal. And many Christians are mesmerized by this president and have even gone as far as said he's been ordained by God. And I'm going to be the first to say that if this is the kind of God that we have that promotes a man who lies so easily and so readily, and would allow himself to be a part of many, relationships or acquaintances with people who are not the right people, if you will, or who are criminals or who are doing things illegally at his behest. Or his request, you know, you got to wonder about him. And I think that the rationale has just totally gone out the window for many people. And I do find it funny that many Christians do follow him and really love this man beyond anything. Almost pretty much, if you're biblical and you look at the Bible and you think about what Revelations is all about, it says that the time will come when this man will rise up and people will believe everything he says, and men will believe a lie rather than the truth because their deeds are evil and they're in for a rude awakening. And, call him the Antichrist, call him the precursor to the Antichrist, call him whatever you would like to call him, or whatever it is that you see as a Christian where the state of the world is in. Um, And I was talking to a young person just yesterday morning who was telling me, he does crack. And I said, "Why do you do it?" And he said, "Because there is no hope in this world." And I'm like, "That's sad." And I said, "You really need to find your path and your successes in life." And he said that he finds no future, no reason to move forward because of all that's going on, and that the drugs make him not feel it. And so while you're talking about getting drugs out, and you're looking at, the different things that have happened, like a lot of suicides, young people killing themselves, not even just young people, other people killing themselves because of one reason or another. The stressors of this world are way too high for them. And unfortunately, they only see one way out. I can remember that someone said to a sibling of mine that that anyone who kills themselves are just taking the coward's way out. And obviously, that person has never faced really intolerable hardships that have touched them in such a way that they've lost all compassion for humanity. And this is one of the biggest things that's going on when I talk about a lot about the top 1% who hold the wealth, is they feel that they're above the law. They're not empathetic toward people who are having hardships in life. And in fact, if it doesn't bother them in any way, it's not one of their family members that are going through it, then it's unimportant. It doesn't have any impact on their life whatsoever. So who cares if X, Y, and Z die of a new cancer that is out there? It only becomes prevalent and national news when someone who's a celebrity or someone who is higher up in the political realm or a wealthy individual, becomes affected by that particular cancer before it's given the kinds of um, publicity that needs to be given to it. I remember in the year that my mother passed away of colon, she had colon rectal cancer and was being treated, and pulmonary embolism took her out 4 days before her 50th birthday. And I remember that I never heard about colon cancer. I never saw a lot about it. And then the following year or two later, Katie Couric, who was on NBC Today Show at the time, she underwent a colonoscopy because her husband Jay had just died of colon cancer. And when she started talking about it, then you started hearing about it everywhere, colon cancer screening and that kind of thing. And it's nothing against Katie Couric. I think she's an amazing woman, and she was amazing, on the Today Show. And I think in a lot of ways, she was the NBC Today Show allowed Matt Lauer to try to overshadow her in a lot of ways, and really took away from her efforts, and instead of moving her up the ranks, she had to move out in toward other avenues, and I really hated seeing her leave that show. But anyway, I guess that's my spew. I'm not even sure how long I've been talking. I really am looking forward to hearing more about, what things you'd like to talk about, some ideas, and always being respectful. Don't use people's names unless they are, they happen to be a celebrity and they're in the public eye. Don't point out other people's names that or friends' names and how they do this and that. That's not what we're here for. We're here to talk about the different things. Um, and one of the other things I wanted to talk about before I forget is, you look at Joe Scarborough, you know, he's still, still embraces or recognizes the many lies that Donald Trump has told, and that his defenders can go ahead and believe those lies and to kind of feed on those lies. But those lies will come back eventually, and they will have ramifications. Um, when I think about many of the things that Trump has been able to do, I worry that for a country that claims that has all these freedoms, maybe many in this country feel that we have too much freedom and that we need to have more of a dictatorial government like Hitler inflicted, and some of the other people that are in power now, like Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong Un, and people who control what is said, how it's said. And in this country, the freedom of the speech, the freedom of the press is all under attack by this man who would like to make this country under his totalitarian rule. And the scary part is, I think many of you would love to see it. And once it happened, you would think that this man is going to be there or promote you to some higher level. And then the harsh reality will start to set in when he starts to move in toward your particular group or groups that you belong to, and starts wiping you out in some kind of mass genocide. I don't put anything past Donald Trump. He wants to play games. He wants to be the boss. He wants to throw tantrums. He has a vicious, nasty temper. And I think we've heard that enough from people, that if he doesn't get his way, he's going to turn on you, and he's going to pound you on the rocks and berate you and slander you publicly, which I don't believe that a president should ever be doing in political office against average everyday citizens, or people who have a talk show or whatever, or a business. And he demands that all these people cut that business off. I think it's a conflict of interest, and I think he knows it's a conflict of interest, but he feels quite free to be able to do what he wants to do, because many of you have voted for him and still cheer him on, even when he's sending out messages that result in some kind of hate crime that initiates, like the Muslim Church in New Zealand, and some of the other things that have gone on. Swastikas being painted on the side of houses, LGBTQ plus transgendered and gays being either beaten or slaughtered and murdered, and people going back to using the I didn't know he was gay and he tried to grab me, so I had to kill him. Like, my question is, you had to stab him 23 times to be able to realize that, that you killed him? I mean, come on. Not being realistic. And so all I'm asking is that a lot of people think about what it really means to be in this world today, especially for our young people. The reality show of The Apprentice, that set, which was in Donald Trump's office building, or his offices were located on that floor, that set was redefined or redesigned by the people who initiated The Apprentice and wanted Donald Trump to be the head of that reality series. and they recarpeted those rooms and made those things happen the way they did. Those weren't things that Donald Trump already had done. Those were done by the people who set up the show that he got involved with. They redid that stuff to make it look like it was really a fantastic area. And they portrayed Donald Trump as being this amazing businessman and tycoon. And personally, I don't believe that he has ever done anything amazing on his own other than ride on the coattails of his name. And that name was made popular and given a brand and given uh, respect by his father. And even though his father was racist and had issues, he still, had gotten a lot of respect for the Trump name. And Donald Trump has abused that particular name, abused the way that he um, uses his name, and his children use their names to break many of the emoluments clauses, uh, where they're not going to benefit from their position in the White House, especially Donald Trump. And yet the man is making much, much, probably billions and billions, if not trillions of dollars, in his newfound claim to glory, which is to be the president of the United States and to um, say exactly what I feel needs to be said, and that is to screw the American people out of as much money as he possibly can, to make as much money from foreign dignitaries in their countries, by having them put his name on buildings, and to be able to put Ivanka's name on clothing lines, that they're, like China, use her brand, her name, uh, to put out there. And they're making lots and lots of money. And the money in the United States, it's not there. We're billions, if not trillions, of dollars in debt now. $550 billion just in the first 3 months of this, or first 3 months of the first quarter of this fiscal year, or this year of 2019, and it's only going to get worse. Uh, and all of you are like, "Oh, he deserves to be golfing. He works really hard." He doesn't work any harder than any other president of the United States ever has. And he complained the most about all of them taking their vacations. And everything that Donald Trump has complained about, and berated on others about doing, uh, if he were to look in the mirror, he wouldn't be able to tell himself from them, because he believes that when he does it, it's an amazing thing and that he has a right to do it. And when other people do it, they should be raped, berated, taken down, punished, gone after, beaten down until they're either, gone away for life or killed. And so you have to ask yourself, where does this stop? And if he doesn't get reelected in 2020, which there's a good possibility that could happen, is he going to leave the White House in a professional, dignified manner, like all the other 44 presidents before him? Or is he going to, grab a hold of the door seals and demand that the military come and shoot down the people that are trying to take him out of the White House? Because he's just not going to give it up, because he sees America as his company and that he is totally in control of it and nobody tells him what to do. So I'm going to leave you with many of those thoughts. Some of it sounds maybe a little bit like ranting. Some of it is just getting many thoughts and ideas out there. And I'd like to see you all make comments and let me know what you think about them. and then we'll talk about them as I read your comments, and maybe we can develop some open, respectful communication so that we each understand where the other is coming from. All right, that's all for now. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week and an amazing weekend. And for now, I am Peter Fabricius, and I'm off. Peace and blessings, everyone.